Okay, in order to make the cute little raccoon, we want to first start with an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock. You're going to end up with a 5.5 by 9 3/8 piece. That's what you're going to use. To get that, you'll cut away so that you have a 5.5 by 11 piece of cardstock, which is what this piece is right here. So you would cut this away, and then you're going to cut the end away so that you end up with 5.5 by 9 3/8 for this piece, and then we're going to score that. So here's the box with all the score lines on it. You can see I've taken at each score line at the bottom, and I've cut from the bottom edge of the cardstock up to the score line. I like to cut these long, skinny, they look like upside down V's. It takes away a little bit of the bulk of the flaps so that when you fold it together they're not pressing on each other and keeping the box from closing all the way. This little one on the end is going to be your flap that you're going to glue, and I actually cut away the flap that was down there, so that one's gone. You're going to make sure you cut that off. So there we have our box that's put together. When you're putting your box together, you can see kind of in the corner here, I'm not sure with the light if it shows or not, this little edge where you glued it, that's actually the back of the box. So when you fold the bottom of the box, you want to make sure that the flap that you fold last on the bottom is pointing towards the back. That way you don't get a seam in the front. And I'll just make sure that I get that out to the edges. Doesn't really matter how much I get in the middle there. And fold that over. Okay, the next part of the box that I want to work on is the raccoon's tail. And when we cut away previously, we used this portion for the box. I want to use this long portion that we have here. I think it's 3 inches by 11 inches. And I'm going to use that. I'm going to take it and cut it in half to where it is 3 inches by 5.5 inches. Okay, I'm going to take this 3 inch by 5.5 inch piece of cardstock, and I'm going to use the second oval in. We have the oval framelit, and it's sitting over the cardstock pretty much as close as one edge as it can go. Now, the whole point of using the ovals is not to have an oval shape, but to have an overlapping oval. Okay. And what this gives you in the end is a little pointed oval, and that's what you're going to be using for the raccoon's tail. All right, the next thing we're going to work on is the raccoon's head, and you're going to need a piece of your colored cardstock, 4 1/4 by 5.5. It's basically a quarter sheet of letter size. You're also going to need a sheet of Whisper White cardstock the same size, and we're going to run those both through the Big Shot together using the Top Note die. So you can see they both came out together. They're kind of stuck because those little perforations that go around. So just sort of pull them apart, and there you have your two pieces that you're going to be using for the raccoon's face. So if you get that all lined up to where the bumps are at 1 3/4 and your little tips are at about 1/2 inch, then you should be good to score. And then what you have is a score line that's going to fold back right there and give you the little raccoon face. Okay, here we have our raccoon face, and this is the tail that we cut out earlier. It's just a pointed oval. So I'm going to take the face and I'm going to turn it over. And I want this short side of it. It's scored here, and this part is shorter than the rest of it. I want this short side up here at the top. That's going to be the part that's on the back of the box. This is actually going to be the face. This is the front side of it. So I want to be working with the face. I want to cut away part of this. So we've got our two parts of the face that we're going to cut away. And again, this is on the back side. You can take your paper snips and cut this away. Okay, the next step is to take this top note that you cut out of the Whisper White, and then the top note that you just trimmed. This is the one that has the score lines in it. And you're going to put one on top of the other. So here's my Stampin' trimmer. I have one mark lined up at one end of the track and one line marked at the other end of the track. They're lined right up with that track. C, that's my cutting blade that's labeled with the letter C. And so I'm just going to cut it off there. And then all I need to do is adhere it to this. And there's the raccoon's face, and we just have to put his little features on now. Okay, all of the features that you're going to need for the raccoon's face, you should be able to cut out of a 1/4 of a sheet of basic black cardstock. Okay, so I want you to take a look at this now. I've cut the 3 smallest ovals out, die cut them out. This is the large oval punch. These are the 3/4 inch circle punches, and this is the 1 3/4 inch scallop circle punch. The only thing we have left is the 1/2 inch circle punch, and that's going to be for the little guy's nose. So it's really easy to leave that one for last. Just make sure you leave your room, you know, towards the edge. We also could have popped him right out of here. Okay, if you remember when we started with 1 letter sized or 8.5 by 11 sheet of gray cardstock. We used this part for the box. We took this part and cut it in half, so we ended up having that left. All we need is 1 of these small oval framelits and then 2 of the 1 inch circle punches for the eyes, and this oval is going to be used for the outside of the ear. So let me do that, and then I'll round up all the pieces together and show you what that looks like. Okay, so we've got all of our pieces here. Here's the head that we've already constructed. This is the 1/4 sheet of basic black cardstock and the pieces that came from it. And this is that little scrap from the end of the gray cardstock, the pieces that came from it, and this is the tail that we already constructed. So I just want to show you how this all comes together. The first thing that we're going to do is take 2 of these ovals and we're going to glue them in place and then trim them from the back. Okay, most of the hard work is done. So we're then going to have these 1 inch circles, gray circles, that are going to be the background of the eye. Okay, so I have adhered the 2 1 inch gray circles to the little raccoon mask, and these are going to be the 3/4 inch circles are going to make his eyes. And just make a little mark where I think I might want a hole or a little round twinkle in his eye. Gotta make sure that you line up your little eyes so that the hole ends up at the same place. Just line up that little mark that you made. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's the pencil mark that I made. I'm lining it up right in the middle of that circle. And I just pop it out, and then I've got these little holes. And you just punch 2 1/2 inch circles out of Whisper White. And what we're going to do is glue these under the black so that the white shows through, so that he has a nice little twinkle in his eye. Okay, so once you get the little eyes and the little twinkle all handled, what you're going to do is glue the little eyes right there. Oh, he's so cute. And you want the twinkles to sort of be the same angle from each eye. Okay, and I used just the regular Tombow multi-purpose glue for, I think, everything that I've done so far. I've used that. But when I put the nose on, I like to use a Stampin Dimensional for that. I just think it's so cute when his little nose sticks out, and it just fits so perfectly right on there. And if you get it in a spot where you can see the edge of the top note sticking out underneath it, it's really easy to remedy that. You just take your paper snips and just make sure you get only that layer and just cut away that extra little nib there. And then his face is all perfect and sweet. Now we just have to do his ears. So for his ears, I'm using this smallest of the Ovals Collection Framelits that I die cut, and this is the large oval punch that I cut out of black cardstock. And you're basically going to just cut this in half. Okay, so these little ears, it almost looks like a bunny this way. These 2 little ears are going to actually go on the back of his head. So when you put these ears on, you're going to want to make sure this flap is folded, and that's the back of his head. So I'm going to work on that side, and I guess it really doesn't matter which one you do first. I just put a thin line of glue on there, and then just pick one side to start. Put it maybe, I don't know, 1/8 to 1/4 inch down, whatever looks good to you. And then sort of line it up to where it looks like it's going straight up from the edge there, and just press nice and firm. Now when I do the second one, I like to put my line of glue on there and sort of use these lines on my grid paper to line it up just a little bit. Close enough. So we've got our two ears adhered. If you get any extra glue in here, you'll want to make sure that you get that out of there before it dries and gets all sticky, because this glue will stay sticky. And then the last thing that I'd like to do is to take my bone folder, and when you put this back flat, the ears are gonna be flat, and just press on it a little bit with the bone folder. If there's a little bit of glue on the back of this, that's not a big deal. But if you just press on that, it'll burnish it down in there and make just a nice, strong bond for you. Okay, so the next thing that you're going to want to do is attach this cute little head to the box, just like this. So you're going to leave about 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch of space between this score line and the top of the box. And you want to come in here and kind of hold this flat so you can see what you're doing, and just line it up where you put your pencil marks. Okay, I'm going to show you this real quick. I have a couple of tips for using these little self-adhesive Velcro dots. One side is scratchy and one side is soft. I like to make sure that the soft side, which is the one that's on the bottom, is on the flat, because when you're reaching in to put things in or to pull things out, you don't want them to get scratched. You want something soft there. So the scratchy part's going to be down here. And then you can kind of squeeze his little nose so that it's all tight. Then you can reach under his nose to open that up. And you probably wonder what these pieces were for. This is for the tail. What I'm going to do is just kind of let that go down as far as I might like to have some black on the tip of the tail. And then you're going to trim that away from the back, just like we did with the little mask, using your paper snips. And the only thing that you have left to do here is you're going to take your basic black Stampin' Right marker. There's a brush tip and a fine tip, this 0.5mm tip, and this is really just kind of simple, just sort of scribble. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. And just kind of try and keep it along the curve of the tail. Alright, and to adhere his tail, I'm going to kind of do the same trick that I've done before. You want to make sure the tail does not extend past the bottom of the box, because otherwise it's just going to knock your box forward. So when you think you have your tail about where you want it, you can turn it over and see, do you want it sticking out more or less? That looks about right to me. So you can hold it in place. If you want to get a Post-it note to hold it in place, you can do that and just mark your outline. So I've got my outline for my tail marked on the back of my box, and I'm just going to apply some adhesive in there. And there he is, and we just need to give him some little paws. Okay, so I ran this 1 3/4 inch scallop circle through the Big Shot with the smallest ovals collection framelit, once on this side and once on the other side to take off the little paws. And then these are going to go on the front, and they will be his hands. Now we don't want to put those in place just yet. If you do want a little raccoon that doesn't have a heart on it, then you could go ahead and put those on if you want. Okay, so I took the scalloped Heart of Hearts embosslet. I put a scrap piece of real red cardstock in there, ran it through the Big Shot, and it gives me this scallop die cut little heart with teeny tiny little raised hearts on it. I'm going to go ahead and just put several Stampin' Dimensionals on there, on the heart. Now for the little paws, I'm just going to turn those over. I'm going to use just a half of a Stampin' Dimensional, and I want the Stampin' Dimensional to be far away from the little fingers on his paw, or the little pads on his paw, however you see it. This is going to sit on the box, but the paws, the tips of the paw are going to overlap the heart, so I kind of want them to be at the same level. Oh, slippery. So this way it looks like his hand is really kind of reaching out and wrapping around. Whereas if I had put it on top of it, it just looks like his little paw is like sitting on top, and it's just not quite as natural. So there is the little raccoon box.